Yeah, we talked about it. My overall consensus is that it's an improvement patch, mostly, other than the boss change. But it just, like, we're so far off of what's needed. It's just depressing. I would be interested to see how, like, fire Sork options do now. I'm sure that Lightning Sork probably got the toughness it needed to get into higher tiers. Probably not comfortably. Can't all be druids. And like how we ran all of them, so how many are there actually? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 40. There's 40. Okay, we missed a couple. I can see a couple names we missed, but basically talk about all of the ones that I know quite a bit on. Okay, so ran a Khan's Grasp. This one felt like a slight increase in density. We couldn't really feel it. How is this an S tier dungeon? My brain. Okay. Basically have a Khan's. You could kind of feel the difference. Hoarfrost still insane for speed, but like in terms of density, it's like you're looking for a glyph. You're looking for a glyph level, basically. Mariners. This one, I don't know. Like these three or these four all felt like 10, like basically something like 10-20% increases at max. They did not feel that great. The rooms in Mercies felt like they had a lot more stuff in them, but like the spots that actually needed it, which was like in between the rooms, I didn't feel it at all. They were just like might be 2 or 3 monsters here or there, but that's not what we're talking about when people say they want more density. Surats, again, there are just more. It just feels like there's more monsters in the spots there are already monsters. It's not really getting rid of the downtime of monsters, but it's already a really good dungeon. Same with Ulders. It's basically more mobs in the spots that you already saw mobs, but like not a generic increase to the actual like quality of the dungeon. Like the downtimes of the dungeon are still the downtimes of the dungeon. Tomb of the Saints, we did not run this one. Dead Man's Dredge, honestly, this is the one where I felt the most improved. Dead Man's Dredge felt like at least 20% better. Forgotten Ruins also did feel like 20. It felt better. Cumdor Temple. Honestly, these ones in the A tier. So far, these 3 in the A tier felt improved, like at least 20% better. But again, just off Nostrava, which was like is also up here in A tier. Like Nostrava was like, there are a lot more monsters in Nostrava. You can feel it, but there's still those awkward patches of downtime in between, like the monster objective or like an elite or like anything where you're just fighting like 2 trees or like a skeleton, and it's like that's not what we meant by more density. Lost Keep and Pallet Delve felt good. This one actually feels like 50% improved. It's like the only one that felt like way better doing it. Kol Verlar Ramparts is just so shit. It's still so bad. There's still like 20 doors to open to find 1 monster, which is now like actually 2 monsters. So yes, there's now double the monsters in that spot, but it's still just 2 monsters. Ancient Reservoir and Betrayer's Row, these are just they're just dog dungeons. And they do not feel any better because the mob types in them are already bad. So when you get the ranged ghost mob types and shit and you put more of them in the zone, yes, there are more monsters, but like it's not of the mobs you actually want to fight, so it does end up being just feeling worse. Garen Hold, is all right. It honestly, you can feel the density increase. It's just not that great of a dungeon, but you do feel it. Twisted Hollow, we didn't feel anything in there. Literally, we just like could not tell a difference. Collapsed Vault and Shifting City, we also felt like no difference in there. Stockades, we didn't run. Bastion of Faithless Shrine, could not feel any difference in there. The Dopamine Tunnel, I ran this one alone. There were a lot more ranged goats than quill dudes, which is not necessarily what I wanted, but there were a lot more monsters. You could feel it. There wasn't as much like empty void space where you just like wait to get pelted by something. You did kind of have some stuff to hit, so kind of like in the right direction. Heretic's Asylum and Halls of the Damned are still just fucking doomed dungeons, and we also couldn't feel the increase in there. Path of the Blind also couldn't feel any changes, and Ironhold was like, it felt like 10-20% more loot, but like didn't really feel it. I don't know. There are only like a couple dungeons, there's only one dungeon that felt like you could actually feel it in it, and it was you can feel it in Surats, you could feel it in Uldirs, but like they're not in the right spots, and Pallid Delve. But I don't know. It does not feel like they just did an overall 50%. They obviously, I can tell you, they obviously didn't do a 50% increase to all monsters. Like what the Nostrava change, where they added like 50% of more like nodes spawning, or like dudes, like dots on the map, was not apparent in all dungeons. You would have noticed it in some of them a lot more. And also, I think if they did just apply a 50% increase, that like the dungeons were already so empty, like they need to do a base adjustment to all the mobs, not just like some sort of like algorithm change for spawning. So like things are a little bit better in the dungeons, but some dungeons do get worse with more monsters because they just spawned more of the shit monster. Needs to be more variety in the dungeon, along with density, so that you're not just getting pelted by 50,000 ghosts. Yeah, that's basically my opinion of it. Is it's like they only hit the mark in a couple dungeons, and they were already pretty good dungeons. And a lot of the spots in those dungeons that are empty, that you would have hoped to put mobs in, they didn't put mobs in for whatever reason. They just put more mobs in the spots that were already mobs. So we're just gonna hope that they continue to get feedback on that and adjust it. But my take is that got a long way to go. But if they are doing the thing where they're actually not going to be investing in Nightmare Dungeons as in-game content, then I don't know what any of these changes are for, other than as a band-aid fix until we get to some seasonal content or some in-game content that they actually make that's in-game content. But for now, we're looking at some meh improved dungeons. That's how it feels. You got meh amounts more of monsters.